Bang! Neeves Knives, I'm Jared, and today we're checking out a new Tuya model. I love Tuya knives. I think they do an incredible job, and this one could possibly be my new favorite Tucson, or at least, it's up there. It's definitely up there. I'm going to pull out one of my other favorites here in a second, and we'll compare them. But this guy, what I love about it is this nail nick. It's so small. So, I don't know, monotone, what would you call it? Whatever. It's small. So you wouldn't think that it's going to work as good as it does. But I mean, it's got a nice sharp edge on it, and the detent is perfectly tuned for both deployments. You would think you'd have to do a light detent on the flipper tab in order to be able to use this as a good nail nick. Not at all. I can even do it left-handed. And this isn't a real bolster lock. This is a frame lock. It just has the micro milling like a bolster lock. So a lot of things to love about this. Let's go into the blade really quick. So we have a beautiful, beautiful grind on this. Look at that grind. It is just, to me, I love a deep satin, man. A deep satin speaks to me all the time, or always. Then we have, and this is another thing I love about it. Talk about plain Jane, right? Just like no colors, no nothing, it just looks like a tool, a solid tool. And then when you mix the orange peel on top of it, orange peel is an incredibly durable finish on scales, on titanium. It's basically, I would say, probably the most resilient of all finishes. It makes it to where, you can be tough on your knife and you're not going to show scratches or anything like that. I've done all kinds of tests on orange peel, and it's incredible how durable it actually is. I've heard that during the process, it actually hardens the surface to some extent. I'm not sure, all the details on that. So hopefully I'm not lying about that. But it definitely reduces scratching to a high extent. Now, the clip is a titanium mill pocket clip, and we have a titanium backspacer. Then we have, again, flipping action, good access to that lock bar. You knocked it back just a little bit, added a little chamfer. You can push button it or light switch it. Tuya does a really good job with their jimping, and I love that. This is nice, catchy jimping, exactly the way I want it. The spear point blade, my good, this is my style knife right here. This is like is Neeves Knives as it gets, for the most part, being done by another company and everything. I love a spear point blade. I love a neutral handle, and this one, while it does have a little bit of arch to it, that arch only benefits you. Tip is a little bit higher than the center of the pivot, but not much. It's still right there in that range where you can easily use it, cut down on flat surfaces. It's an all-terrain, or all-purpose, I should say, all-purpose blade shape. It's going to shine doing just about anything. It's kind of a jack-of-all-trades blade shape. Now, I don't know what you'd call this, the bone finish, it kind of is like the way they would mill bone. Look at that. I love it. I think it looks amazing, and it adds to the texturing, which is really, really nice. The ergos are good. I do feel the clip a bit, but it's not horrible. I feel it right there just slightly, but it's still very comfortable. It's definitely something I could, bear down on. The action on the drop, you can see, nice and smooth on ceramic caged bearings. Now the nail nick, you can use it to thumb roll if you want. You could two-hand open it, but I don't know who would want to do that. But the flick is just it lands right where you would expect it, or right where the best possible place for it to land. And you don't have to use your nail. You can just use your skin, but you can also get your nail in there, right there, and flick with your nail. So you got options. The edge, very thin geometry. Let's measure the behind the edge thickness, because it is super consistent. So we have about 13 thousandths behind the edge there. We move up here to the belly, but same thing. I mean, it is super consistent from heel to tip, and you can just see the bevel's nice and consistent, came very sharp. The grind is very well done. Love to see that. That's going to benefit you in sharpening, cutting, and edge retention. Everything is going to excel across the board with geometry like this. Now, like I always do, I'll have everything linked down in the description for you guys. So if there's anything I don't say in the video that you want to maybe get information on, check out the links in the description. I will have everything from this video and other stuff linked down there. I know I'm jumping all around here, guys, but I like this thing so much. Just winging it. But the edge is very, very thin. This is super slicey. This is a phenomenal blade shape and grind. The handle and blade just completely makes sense. This is something that I always scream about. Make it make sense. Don't you know, make something where it's like it just doesn't make sense, like why these ergos are with this grind or this blade shape. This completely makes sense. Very, very slicey. And man, that full flat grind with that satin finish is just beautiful. Now, I of course have some nitpicks and negatives, you know, as always, but they are very minimal, especially considering how much I love it. Now, one thing is the plunge grind and sharpening choil, and I'm going to pull up some other knives really quick to show you what a good plunge grind and sharpening choil looks like. So look at this one. The reason why I don't like this is because the end of the plunge grind, excuse me, the end of the plunge grind is touching the edge, and you can actually see it right there. You see how the bevel is slightly larger than right here? That's because that's thicker right there. So what you want to do instead, I'm going to show you a couple different examples. So this would be like the smallest example, not in size of knife, but in size of choil. So you have the plunge grind that starts here, but you can see it ends right there. So from here to here, it's the same thickness of the grind all the way across. There's no thicker area. So you can sharpen this repeatedly all the way to right there before it'll ever hit the plunge grind and create a smile. And we'll talk about why that can be negative. Here's another small example. Now this one's been sharpened multiple times, so I've already eaten up some of the steel, but you can see the plunge grind started here and it ends right there. So now I have from here to here of sharpening. So as I sharpen, it's going to keep moving up and up and up and up and eventually hit that. Like I said, this is already a couple sharpenings in, but that's what I want. I want as many as possible. Now here is like the best example. The best example is a Chris Reeves knife Sebenza, because if you look, you can't even see the plunge grind. It's underneath the scales. It's in there. It's just way up here. So I can sharpen this thing forever. Another company that did something very similar is the Predator, the CMB Predator. See how they tapered this all the way down to the edge? So you have all of that life to sharpen off. That's like the best example. That's like a 10 out of 10 plunge grind in sharpening choil. Now, what happens when you do it like this is you are going to get this. You're going to sharpen it and it's going to sharpen into the edge. So instead of it looking nice and clean like this does, where the edge just terminates, you know, just goes straight forward and just terminates, instead of it looking clean like that, it's going to look like this, where you're actually cutting into the plunge grind with your stone. Another example of it being nice and clean right here. This is a beautiful sharpening choil and plunge grind. You can see how the edge termination doesn't widen up right here. So that's the gist of it. And the reason or why it winds up causing issues is, one, when you're sharpening, this will lift you up a little bit and it'll be more difficult to get. It can be much more difficult to get the apex, and it can chip your stones. It just makes sharpening a little bit more difficult. It makes the edge ugly at the termination or at the plunge grind area. And it can, like I said, it can chip your stone, and it makes it more difficult to hit the apex because it's thicker. Any place that's thicker is going to take longer to sharpen. So if the rest of the edge is nice and thin, and then you have one little thick spot back here, you're going to have the whole edge sharpened, and you're going to be still working on that one little tiny piece for a while. Sometimes you'll have to get it out through a few sharpenings rather than just one, because taking it out with one sharpening means you're going to have to remove years of life off of your edge in order to hit it. Now, that being said, this is not horrifying or anything like that, and you can easily put your own in, which is what I always want. If I'm going to see a plunge grind like this. At the very least, don't put the stop pin back there, and they did not do that. So at any moment, I can cut in my own choil without an issue, and I can do that in a matter of 5-10 minutes. So that's cool. Happy to see that. You can see the stop pins up here, and that's the opening and closing stop pin. So that's cool. Next thing is the clip is, you know, I'm not a huge fan of this clip. It's a little narrow for me, and it's not as smooth as I'd like. I'd like it to be smoother. The fact that it is, you know, they put the cutoff of the lock bar on the inside, which I love to see. You know, I know some people argue, well, the lock bar is not as strong. I don't care. You know, even if it is slightly weaker being on the inside than the outside, these are pocket knives. What are you doing with them that's going to break this lock bar? And if that is the kind of knife you're wanting, stop looking for a frame lock. You know, get something else that's more resilient to abuse. This is a cutting tool. So that's how it should be used. Even if you're going to use it stupidly, you know, doing a little prying and stuff like that, that's not going to put enough stress on that lock bar. You have to really be doing some crazy stuff with your knife to put that much stress right here to make it crack. Anyways, so being that it is on the inside, like I love to see, the clip, I just wish it was a little wider maybe, or possibly just had more spring. It's just a little bit tight. Now, that being said, it's fine. It goes in and out of the pocket. It's not, you know, it's not bad or anything like that. I just would love to see it have a little bit less tension, which I know will come with carrying it. That will ease up over time, but it is a little tight. The next thing, like I said, I do feel the clip a bit in my hand right here. It's not that big of a deal, just an observation. So I guess, you know, I'm not even gonna, you know, call that a negative. It just is what it is. I'd rather have a clip than not. I don't know if maybe dropping it down and putting it more centered would have helped. I don't know, but it's not bad. The lock bar cutout's great. But it does feel thin, because when you go to touch right here, you have that chamfer, and that chamfer makes it where it's a little bit of a corner. Now, that being said, it's not bad. It's not bad. It's not hurting me or anything like that. It's not even annoying. It's just, you know, it is a little bit thin right there. I almost wish maybe it was slightly thicker, or possibly maybe the lock bar was just cut out a little bit more so that I'm more coming from the side. Now that I am coming from the side still, because he did cut it out really well. So this is tiny nitpicks, guys. I try to come up with something, you know, but these things are so minimal that this knife is amazing. Next thing, which I don't think there is a next thing. So, oh yeah, there is a next thing. T6 hardware. What? Why not T8s all the way around? T8s all the way around. Don't give us T6s no more. Just forget about T6s, especially on a premium knife. It's going to be a premium knife. Give us T8s. T8s at the minimum, or larger. It is riding on ceramic caged bearings, which they do a really good job with. The action's just incredible. Perfectly centered. Yeah. So another little tiny thing. This is a tiny thing. The backspacer and the clip do not match. You notice that? Like, I think they should have orange peeled this. I don't know. Yeah, I think that's the way to go. If they would have orange peeled it or something, just to make it kind of blend in a little bit better. It still blends in, but I want to show you guys the Tuya Wrath, which is another Tuya I absolutely love. There's a lot of Tuyas I love. I'm not going to pull them all out right now, but they have a ton of incredible knives. This happens to be one of my other favorite Tuyas, with this beautiful dual ground tanto, amazing geometry. This one has a good sharpening choil and plunge grind. It also can act somewhat as a finger choil. Very, very comfortable, like extremely comfortable. Amazing access to that lock bar. Look at that. Jimping on the front flipper is perfection. It doesn't get better than this as far as jimping or front flipping action. I mean, it's just a great front flipping action. And then the thumb studs, I love these thumb studs exactly the way I want them. S90V steel, DLC, which I love DLC. So this is a very attractive, amazing knife. I freaking dig this thing a lot. Now, I love a lot of the other models too. So like I said, the Shocker, the NV, what else? There's a bunch of them, but this guy is something special. I do like this, and I love, like I said, how simple it is, how, you know, it's silver color, right? It's just like, it's so plain Jane, and I love it. Now there is another blade shape. I should have said that a long time ago. There is another blade shape. Maybe I'll have to put a picture up at the beginning of the video or something, but there is another blade shape, so that's really cool. So if you like buoys or you like clip points, then that would be the way to go. I personally like this one the most because this is just the blade shape I love the most. But anyways, there you guys go. Work hard, stay tough. Until next time, peace.